Economics in Action, where we explore important ideas and topics related to economics. In this episode, we're going to explore a school of economic thinking that is one of the most used by economists today. New Keynesian Economics is a school of thought in macroeconomics that builds on the original theories proposed by John Maynard Keynes. It emerged in the 1980s as a response to criticisms of Keynesian economics by monetarist and new classical economists, who disputed the idea that government intervention can or should stabilize the economy. New Keynesian economics shares the Keynesian belief in market imperfections and the efficacy of fiscal policy, but integrates elements from microeconomic theory and emphasizes the importance of nominal rigidities, a situation in which prices of goods, services, or wages do not change immediately or fully in response to changes in supply or demand. Before delving into New Keynesian economics, let's briefly revisit the original Keynesian economic theory. This approach to economic theory was proposed by John Maynard Keynes in the 1930s in response to the Great Depression. Keynes argued that insufficient demand could lead to prolonged periods of high unemployment. To combat this, he proposed government intervention through fiscal policy, government spending and taxes, and monetary policy, interest rates and money supply, to stabilize output and prevent recessions. New Keynesian economics arose several decades after Keynes's original ideas, mainly during the 1980s and 1990s. Economists sought to reconcile Keynesian ideas with more rigorous microeconomic foundations and to address the critiques of new classical economists and monetarists who highlighted the lack of microeconomic foundations in Keynesian economics and its inability to explain certain economic phenomena. For example, Keynesian models had difficulty explaining why high unemployment rates could persist even in the absence of restrictive government policies. This became particularly evident in the 1970s when many developed economies experienced stagflation, a combination of high unemployment and high inflation, which contradicted the simple Keynesian Phillips curve that posited a trade-off between inflation and unemployment. New Keynesian economists aimed to create a more robust macroeconomic framework that could accommodate a wide range of economic realities. They embraced mathematical modeling and statistical analysis, drawing heavily on microeconomic theory to create their macroeconomic models. One of the main areas of focus for New Keynesian economists is nominal rigidities, particularly wage and price stickiness. They argued that wages and prices do not adjust immediately to changes in economic conditions due to various frictions, such as contracts, menu costs, which are the cost to a firm of changing its prices, and the difficulties in gathering and processing information. These rigidities can lead to market failures, which justify government intervention. For example, in a recession, if wages and prices do not fall quickly enough to equilibrate supply and demand, there can be prolonged periods of involuntary unemployment, something New Keynesian economics shares with original Keynesian theory. Here's a simple example. Imagine a town that has a single factory employing most of the town's residents. The factory produces widgets, which are sold both locally and nationally. Suddenly, due to an economic turndown, the demand for widgets falls significantly. The factory owner is now left with a surplus of widgets and less revenue coming in. To remain profitable, the factory owner needs to cut costs. The most substantial cost is the wages paid to workers. However, due to long-term contracts or a desire to maintain worker morale, the factory owner cannot quickly or easily reduce wages. Meanwhile, the workers, seeing the economic downturn and fearing job loss, cut back on their spending, which further decreases demand in the economy. The factory owner might then decide to lay off some workers to reduce costs. These unemployed workers would then have less income to spend, leading to a further reduction in demand. In theory, wages should fall to a point where it becomes profitable for factory owners to employ the workers again, thus ending the cycle. However, due to the aforementioned wage stickiness, this adjustment can take time, leading to a period of prolonged, involuntary unemployment. Unlike traditional Keynesian economists, New Keynesians also incorporated the concept of rational expectations into their analysis. Rational expectation theory, which asserts that individuals use all available information to forecast future economic events, was initially developed by economists critical of Keynesianism. New Keynesians, however, adapted it to fit within their framework. In essence, rational expectations theory asserts that people make decisions based on their interpretations of the effects of future policies and events, rather than just reacting to changes as they occur. For example, suppose you are a farmer who grows corn. Every year you have to decide how much corn to plant. This decision is influenced by the price you expect corn to fetch in the market when the crop is ready for sale. In this scenario, the concept of rational expectations would imply that you use all available information to predict future corn prices. This information could include current and past corn prices, the state of the economy, weather forecasts, expected demand for corn-based products, governmental agricultural policies, and so forth. For instance, if you observe that the government is planning to introduce a policy to increase the use of ethanol, which is derived from corn, in fuel, you would rationally expect the demand for corn, and thus its price, to rise in the future. Based on this expectation, you might decide to plant more corn. New Keynesians argue that even with rational expectations, due to price stickiness and other market imperfections, economic output can deviate from its potential level, leading to business cycles. They maintain that active stabilization policy, fiscal and monetary, by the government can help smooth these cycles and return the economy to its potential output more quickly. The use of rational expectations theory in their models reflects a broader characteristic of New Keynesian economics, the use of micro-foundations. Micro-foundations are attempts to base macroeconomic theory on sound principles of microeconomics, such as individual maximizing behavior and market equilibrium. The New Keynesian models aim to be fully consistent with these principles, integrating individual behavior and decentralized trading into their analysis. New Keynesian economists have contributed significantly to the theory and practice of monetary policy. They argue that the central bank can affect real economic output, at least in the short run, through systematic monetary policy. This view contrasts with the new classical perspective, which holds that systematic monetary policy cannot affect real economic variables due to the neutrality of money. In basic terms, the neutrality of money means that if you add more money to an economy, it doesn't change how much stuff, like goods or services, the economy can produce. It just makes prices higher. The New Keynesian Philip curve, which describes the relationship between inflation and unemployment, is a cornerstone of modern central banking. It suggests that inflation depends on what people expect will happen to prices in the future and how much slack there is in the economy. Central banks, according to New Keynesian theory, can manage demand to keep the economy operating near its potential, mitigating the effects of recession and controlling inflation. Despite its broad acceptance among academics and policymakers, New Keynesian economics is not without its critics. Some economists argue that its models rely heavily on mathematical convenience rather than empirical realism. Others criticize the new Keynesian emphasis on market imperfections, arguing that it neglects the importance of incentives, property rights, and other institutional factors in shaping economic outcomes. Furthermore, new Keynesian economics has been challenged by the recent financial crisis and its aftermath, leading to calls for even newer models. New Keynesian economics represents an evolution and refinement of Keynes's original ideas, combining them with concepts from microeconomics and incorporating ideas from economic schools of thought that emerged after Keynes. It emphasizes nominal rigidities, market failures, rational expectations, and the role of fiscal and monetary policy. As such, new Keynesian economics provides a theoretical underpinning for much of the economic policy making in many economies today. However, like all economic theories, it continues to evolve and be challenged, reflecting the dynamic nature of economic science. Thanks for listening. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and write a comment telling us how you feel.